So parents have to redesign their expenditure rate and attitude. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Gavey, as a parent, what is the situation regarding parents having to sponsor the education of their children at this time that the country generally is grappling with economic hardship?
Thank you very much for that question. Like we will all say, it is a challenging moment for all parents. But as a society that wants a healthy children, a society who wants healthy children, we have to provide the enabling environment where children will be able to have education. Why I say it's a challenging moment to parents is that scripturally they said we parents should give birth. We parents should bring our offspring to fill the earth. We have done it, but the society needs to help us bring these children up in a way that will not be problem to our society. The government needs to work and put all modalities so that our children will have good education. So I feel that it's a very challenging moment for parents, yes, but the government needs to do a lot so that the children will have good education.
Okay. Dr. Khan,
Yes.
I am with you now.
Okay.
Should education in the society, especially at this time that economic hardship is biting, come at a cost or as a service to the people?
Okay, once again, I appreciate you for that question. We need to look at issues of society from a very balanced, objective perspective. There is this popular adage that nothing is free. I don't know that as human beings, whatever comes free is always underestimated, is always abused. Education should not come completely free. However, like the three of us have agreed, education should come at a cost, and the people who are supposed to pay should also rise up to the occasion. I think that we need to look at a few points, the reason for which education is coming at this high cost. There is a sharp difference between public schools and private schools. First of all, public schools are funded by government. And because government is the largest organ of any society, it can afford to fund schools. We all know that here in Benue, it is the state government that pays teachers' salaries of all public schools and grant in aided schools. Government is a large organ. There is a budgetary allocation to that. For instance, here in Benue, at the beginning of this year, the governor dedicated 15% of the total budget to education. This includes salaries that will be paid to teachers and staff managing our schools. Whereas in the private schools, proprietors manage lean resources in order to run their schools and pay teachers. I want to say that the quality of education is one for all schools, whether public or private. So if government has the capacity to run schools and maintain standards and also supervise and ensure that their quality is assured and maintained, private schools do not have such opportunity. So one will understand why private schools want to fix their school fees so as to be able to maintain their structures, pay their salaries, attract their parents so that they can bring their children to their own schools. So there are a wide variety of factors that are responsible for this. I have mentioned only the issue of funding from government in terms of infrastructure and salaries and other benefits that private schools cannot afford. Government has it easy when you talk about facilities and resources and the maintenance of them. Here in Nigeria, we know that UBEC has a basic responsibility of renewing the infrastructures of schools across Nigeria. Here in Benue, we have always, gotten it our own share, through the program that UBEC runs of counterpart funding. This year alone, we have given out contracts that are nearly 5,000. No private school can boast of such an intervention in their schools. So for some of us who understand perfectly why it is so, but there should be an objective balance. In other words, private schools do not have the kind of resources that government has, but there should be a human face to it. It's not just about business. It is beyond business. There is this desire to add value to society. In fact, private schools are only complementing the role of government in educating society, maintaining knowledge and funding and all of that. So while I sympathize with private schools, I'll go ahead to say that they also need to approach this with a human face. And I think this is the much that we can say for now. But of course, as the discussion still unfolds, I'll have one or two recommendations to private school owners that they can adopt in their project, in their initiatives, and they can add value to us, and school fees may not go beyond what it is today, even though times will keep changing. In fact, I hear of schools in Lagos and in Abuja where school fees is about 1 million naira per session. Those who can afford it take their children there. Like my co-discussant said in Ugbokolo, you cannot say that school fees should be 100,000 per term or 200,000 per session. Nobody will go there. So we need to first of all factor in the realities of the time and of the environment and of the realities surrounding, where schools are located so that learners can actually access. Thank you once again.
Okay, Mr. Ojo.
Yes.
Your members, it is alleged that most of the private schools have a policy of demanding school fees and other charges to be paid before the children or wards resume school. At this time that the economic hardship is biting, is that not putting too much stress on the parents?
Well, prepayment is an option. It's not applicable to all private schools. But schools who have a very good management network discuss with their PTA members during holidays and also discuss the modalities of payment. And we are aware that parents are not finding it stressful to make such payment before school resumes. And I do know that the reason why such options were taken is to enable school put some basic facilities in place before school takes off. So if you are owing 10,000 naira, for instance, and they say pay me before the term begins and you pay, I think the burden is over. So prepayment is not mounting pressure if it is agreed by all parties, both the PTA and the school management. But most private schools will start collection of school fees as school resumes. And I do know that some other private schools even have a liberal approach to it. That is, they allow parents to pay at some convenience. I don't know. And all of these are supposed to help the parents to pay, especially fixed salary earners. I think they are the worst hit in this situation, because we know that as costs of materials and everything are rising, corresponding increment in salary wage bill is not there. So many fixed salary earners are having issues now. And so we will advise them to look for a plan B for as a means of sustenance. If you are a civil servant or a fixed salary earner, you must design a marketing outlet or a business venture that will augment your salary so that you'll be able to make ends meet.
Okay, talking about the cost of admission, for instance, this is a new academic session beginning. Do you have a minimum benchmark that you have assigned to members of private schools on what the minimum benchmark of admission should be?
Well,
new intakes.
We have a school fees regime. We just had a meeting with the Honorable Commissioner and members of the stakeholders in the education industry in Benue State. And I think a proposal was made to the House of Assembly. And we are waiting that once that proposal is approved, we'll call our members and educate them and tell them what the state has proposed as benchmark. And from there, they can also start to draw their own school fees analysis. So for now, we are waiting. And I think very soon, that proposal will be sent to us.
Okay, Mrs. Geve, how easy or how difficult has it been with the parents getting to cope with the demands of schools at this as the new academic session beginning, having to enroll new intakes and coping with the charges schools are asking for?
It has been challenging. It has been difficult. Parents have been going through a lot to take their words to school. And why I emphasize on the government supporting the system is that private school is an option. It should be an option. That is, if a parent decides to take his or her child to private school, is an option. But the government schools should be there for parents so that they can enroll their wards and be comfortable they are going to get the desired education. The private school have taken all their weight on parents. You have PTA, where parents pay huge amounts of money. They have blocks where parents have to build. They have ensured the parents take responsibility of all the structures in private schools. And in government schools, where we should take our wards there, or our children there, we don't have the teachers. We have the qualified teachers, but there are not workers there. When you go to a government school, you discover that we have just 3 or 4 teachers handling the entire school, from JSS1 to SS3, or from primary 1 to primary 3. So it has gone back to parents. You have to would you allow your child to go to a public school, a government school, where he or she may not get the required education, or you should take the child to a private school where the child can compete with their mates out there? So this is where the weight has become so much on parents. You have to go through so much because there are no other options. If we had options, we will go and be glad we have the opportunity. Talking about federal, not easy the way it used to be. It is still expensive. There are things that parents ought to pay that are outside what the government have said they should pay. So there are so many charges that are not up there for the public to know unless you've taken your child there. So this is what the parents are going through. No parent is smiling at this time. Most children are outside, and you cannot have a healthy society where children are not going to school. You cannot have a healthy society where children are not going to school. So the government needs to take action on this, because I don't see private schools as any problem here. It's a choice. If you decide to take your child to private school, then it's a choice. But government should provide quality education for our state, so that our children will have the basic education. Moreover, it is the government who has professional teachers.
Okay, dear listener, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi. We are discussing the cost of education in public and private schools. I have with me here in the studio the Commissioner for Education and Knowledge Management in Benue State, Reverend Dr. Frederick Kyan, and also the State Chairman, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, Benue State Chapter, Honorable Sunday Ojo, and a parent and a social commentator, politician, Mrs. Mlumo Geve. We have the leading discussion on the issue we are talking about. You can participate on the program later at 10 o'clock by calling in on 0814 335 929, and WhatsApp chat is already activated for you to contribute through text or a WhatsApp chat. You can drop a note to the line 0912 699 9404, 0912 699 9404. Kindly include your name and where you are sending in your message from. Log on to our website on www.agateradiotv.com to listen to us live. You may also download the Agate Radio and TV app from Google Play Store to listen to us. We're available on Radio Garden, and this program is also streaming live on our social media platforms. Follow us, including on Facebook, where you can drop your comments there. Dr. Kyan, school fee regime, do you have one that is a standard for public and private schools in Benue State?
Thank you once again. Public schools are owned by the government. It is therefore a collaborative initiative. And by this I mean that there are various stakeholders. Government is doing this for the good of society. So, each time that we want to fix school fees for public schools, we invite all these critical stakeholders, like my co-discussant said just a week or two ago. We tabled this matter at the Benue State House of Assembly House Committee on Education, whose mandate it is to supervise schools and also regulate school fees as it is fixed. So we proposed that there should be an upward review of school fees in public schools, because the one enforced until now was there since 2016. So for the past 8 years or so, it has been constant, and the reality of the times are obvious that much water has passed under the bridge. So there's a need for us to increase the school fees. Some of the costs have to do with, they're like running costs. They are left with the schools to run their schools and meet their needs. For instance, schools cannot run to government in order to type their documents, produce letters, and circulate or send to parents. Schools cannot run to the government to fund exams production. They should be able to produce their exams by themselves in terms of question papers, answer sheets, and all that goes into exams. So we call all the stakeholders together under the direction of the State House of Assembly to agree on school fees. And this is what we did recently. I'm very confident that by Monday next week or so, the State Assembly will respond to our submissions and will pass it over onto the rest of the schools. But for the private schools, because of the realities on ground, we cannot really compare them, as it were, to fix their school fees. But like the NAPS chairman said, Mr. Ojo said, they also look at the benchmark that the government, brings on board, and it determines to a large extent how much they can also collect. But you know that there are other dynamics that go into determining school fees for private schools. I mentioned one or two earlier, but if I may add again, the private schools pay taxes to government. There are all manner of fees that they pay, and then they employ their own teachers. There is no limit to the number of teachers that they can engage, because it depends on the size of the school, it depends on the population of the school, it depends on the courses that have been offered. There are other subjects that may be extra in some schools, and if private schools have them, they will also need to raise resources in order to pay for the services that are being provided. So it is not really possible to fix a particular amount, but government can always regulate. And in my opinion, if private schools must fix their fees that are commensurate with the realities of the times, government must necessarily intervene. That intervention can come in different ways. A government may decide to reduce the cost of the taxes that private schools pay. But when this is done, it will be done in recognition of the fact that private schools are offering services that are beneficial to society, and because of the benefit of these services, government will want to give them a support. And arising from this, private schools must also bring down their school fees in order to make provision for parents to be able to pay and all that goes into school fees. So in summary, therefore, there is a regulation, but that regulation does not go the whole hog. Private schools also have a liberty to fix their school fees in reality of the things that they go through. Thank you very much.
Okay, regulation, has it taken effect, particularly for the private schools? And when you mentioned the government, your ministry approached the House Committee on Education, that is the State House of Assembly Committee on Education, seeking an upward review of tuition at this time that parents are grappling with economic hardship. I am wondering, where is the human face approach?
Okay, thank you very much. In spite of the difficulty of times, school is a necessary evil. We must give priority attention to schooling. So it is not possible for government to keep reducing school fees to a point where services can no longer be rendered. I gave only one example. Government does not have all the resources in order to fund all the schools to produce documents by way of examinations, by way of teaching materials, by way of maintenance of the infrastructure, and by way of general well-being of schools. So parents must have to make a contribution to the schooling of their wards. School clinics are run by the school. Government does not have all the resources to fund all the clinics in the schools. So schools must also charge a fee, and we call this one running cost. We are not collecting this money to pay salaries or to build structures or any of those needs. When it comes to salaries, incentives, retrainings, workshops, and all of that, government undertakes that bill. So this has to be complementary. Parents cannot sit down, fold their arms, and watch government do everything. After all, education is not free yet. Even though the government of His Excellency Father Alia desires to float free education, even this will come, at a point, but it will also be limited. In other words, government may take charge of tuition, but allow parents to cater for school uniform and books and transportation and other running costs government will continue to undertake. So it is true that times are hard and will continue to be hard. When I went to school in the 70s in primary school fees was never up to 5 naira. That was commensurate with the time. Even then, there were parents that lamented. I remember as a little boy, certain children could not go back to school because parents could not afford. Even then, it was in a public, primary school, Army Children's School in Kano. It was a large school because my father was a soldier. But yet, because of the basic things that we needed to pay, certain children could not return back to school because their parents could not afford it. So at every time, no matter how cheap, how low school fees will be, certain parents may still not be able to afford. So we need to strike a balance between the need to go to school and the quality of service that schools must provide. Government cannot sit down, fold its arm, and watch schools deteriorate in terms of quality as well as infrastructure. And this is why there is a necessary need, therefore, for government to also collect fees from parents in order to augment the service that government is rendering. I keep saying this because I sympathize with private schools. I'm not looking at their service from the perspective of a regulator or an administrator, and therefore trying to push them, compel them to reduce their school fees. No, I'm conscious of the realities of the times, looking at it historically, looking at it where we are today, and looking at it elsewhere where we are going. For instance, if you want to send your child to school overseas now, the millions you spend will be far, far, far more than what it was 10, 20 years ago when people sent their children overseas. In fact, I'm fully aware of certain families who have withdrawn their children from overseas because they no longer can afford the cost of schooling abroad, given the increase in the cost of dollar. So the reality affects all of us. So we don't need to be biased either against government or against the private institutions. We all belong to the same society. Education is one, its quality is one, and the goal of education is one. So we need to sit together on the table of brotherhood, look at the realities, and without any bias, but with every sense of objectivity, approach these issues in order to bring a solution. Let me sound, it may not be true, it may be odd to hear that. Truly, it's not every parent that can afford schooling for their children. And this is why we have the concept of out-of-school children, which the government is still working again in order to accommodate those that have been thrown out of school because of the poor, because of poverty in their families, or because of some other forces that have forced the children out of school. You recall that even here in Makurdi town, there are children who have to go on the streets hawking in order to provide a support base to the parents to send them to school. The children have to hawk either to sell pure water or to sell granite or to sell some other product so as to help raise money in order to send them to school. There's this popular reference in Nigeria where the former president of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, used to tell people that he went to school without shoes. So it's a clear case, an indication that at every point there are parents who cannot afford to send their children to school. How can a whole president of Nigeria tell his subjects that he went to school without shoes because the parents could not afford it? Was government being unjust and unfair at the time? No. It's only an indication of the reality that at every time, not everyone can afford even the basic requirement for education at all times. So there's a limit to which government can regulate school fees, even for its own schools as well as that of private schools. Thank you once again.
Okay, Mr. Ojo.
Yes.
If your regulator brings down some of the taxes, how willing will your members cooperate with regards to slashing some of your charges, including tuition, to make it a bit more affordable for all parents of all categories?
Well, we'll be very, very grateful if government will step down their taxes. In fact, I'm happy that the Honorable Commissioner is making almost a policy statement on this issue because we have been discussing with him making him to understand why the problems that we're having with tax regulators in this state. Because the taxes are really multiple, and we really want them to be streamlined. And I think the Honorable Commissioner and House of Assembly, they are doing a good job on that aspect. I think with when the gadget on tax, new edit on Benue tax comes out, I think a lot of these issues relating to taxes will be reviewed. But straight to your point, if taxes are reduced, we are going to also review our charges. But you know that taxes are not the main thing. Taxes are not the main thing. You know, infrastructural costs, admin costs, and all other costs are rising. And I want us to look at the realities like the Honorable Commissioner has said. If you reduce cost now, you will not give quality. I know, look at the position of Benue State. The major industry of this state is education, human capacity, human resources. That's the major industry. And I think that the government should focus on developing its education. In fact, Benue, outside this state, is highly rated as an educationally advantaged state. And so I want a situation whereby 80 to 90% of Benue children will be trained to university level or HND, where we will be able to market them elsewhere or abroad. But when we don't have a good educational foundation, we will not be able to take advantage of this particular endowment that God has given to us. So I want to join all education stakeholders to look at Benue. Government budget should be increased in education, so that Ministry of Education and Human Management will be able to train teachers in the private schools for us. We'll be able to at least provide some basic facilities in sciences, for instance. To show that we are not looked at social organization. You know, 90% of my members are educationists. They are people who retire from education, and they know the worth of education. But many of them are handicapped. They don't have much money, resources to develop their schools. So we want you to look at that point. That's why we are charging. But as much as possible, we are going to be reasonable and considerate. If government embrace us 100%, they are the regulatory body. Of course, they'll move from place to place to look at what they charge. And I think that will be good, because that will give every Benue child an access to education. And that's our focus. We're not there for profit.
Even though you argue that you are not there for profit, it is the opinion of many in public domain that your members operate schools as business entities, fixing charges that are exploitative and exorbitant for parents who afford. So are you existing as a non-profit body for social service?
Yeah. You see, some members, most of the critics of private sector education charges are even people who do not have children in our schools. You know, streets discussants, they gather themselves and say private school are charging. But you know, we have ways of administering our schools. Before you charge, you call your PTA members, you sit together and discuss and resolve before we increase. We don't do it arbitrarily. We don't just wake up and say, yeah, go and pay 100,000 naira. That's not what we do in private schools. We do it in collaboration with our school PTA. Parents are always involved. And in some schools, even prefects are involved in some of these issues. We make them understand, do you need these facilities? Do you want that facilities? If they agree, it makes us to increase our cost. So that's the basis. It's not arbitrarily at all. And we are not, like I said, I have a school. I built it in 1999. And up till now, I can't say how much profit I've made out of it. But my joy in life is that I've been able to impact knowledge on children who are first class in this country. Award-winning students. So that's my joy. By the time these students come back to develop their alma mater, we'll begin to see the profit. It's long term. So no private proprietor is aiming at immediate gain. That's not it. Because any money you collect in the school system, we plow it back to one infrastructural development or the other. So that's what we do, because we know we are competing with other schools. We are competing. And like I said, quality education is expensive, but it's the best if you know the value.
It's expensive, but it should be made affordable.
That's
especially in the light of the economic realities in our country today. Anyway, Mrs. Geve, you have listened to the commissioner and the proprietor, state chairman of the private school proprietors. As a parent, how do you react to some of the submissions they have made, especially as it concerns the charges of the private schools and even the public schools? You heard the commissioner seeking an upward review in charges that public schools can collect in Benue State.
Thank you very much for that question. It's so unfortunate. Having heard the government sympathizing with the private sector, that it is them, sometimes gives them taxes that increases the school fees, is actually heartbreaking, because I feel the government should be questioning private schools why their school fees are up. Its citizens, the quality of education the children are going to have determines the future of its states. So if the government is charging the private sector, then what do you expect the parents to do? It's so unfortunate situation right now, having to be in the discussion where the Commissioner of Education is sympathizing with the private sector that they are the cause of the increment of school fees. I am really, really heartbroken as a parent. But anyway, we as parents, we want our children to go to school. We are also asking and pleading to the government to make public school, to upgrade primary school, that is public schools for us, so that we can put our children, so that we can sleep having in mind that our children are having good education. Because if you see the last administration, what they do was employ Empower. Once Empower, they either employ Empower or NYC corpers. Once they go, you see that the school does not have anybody to teach children again. So parents have no options than to go and get admission in the private sector, where it's killing us. We need to have good mental health, so that we will raise children also as parents. How much is the minimum wage? The private sector and the private schools are charging 200,000 per term. How much is the minimum wage?
That's a case scenario.
That's a case scenario.
It may not apply to all the
Oh,
Yes.
private schools, yes.
So we are talking about quality. So if you are talking about quality, from that to the government, if you want your children, if you want a good society, you need to centralize on education. Leave every other thing and centralize on education and food. Let people eat and go to school. Be intentional about it. Because if there is no education, then we have an ill society already.
Okay. Dear listener, if you are just tuning in, the program is Perspectives. Our discussion is centered on the cost of education in public and private schools. Minutes away, we shall activate the line for you to call in to participate on the program. That line is 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Once you connect with us, when we start engaging with you, we'd like to know your name and where you are calling in from. Then go ahead and make your submission very briefly to allow others also participate. You can send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. Kindly include your name and where you are sending your message from. Keep your message very succinct as well. Log on to our website on www.iGateRadioTV.com to listen to us live. Download the iGate Radio and TV app from Google Play Store to access all our content. That app is one-stop one that serves you to watch the television, listen to the radio, as well as read the newspaper online. You can follow our social media pages where this program is also streaming live. Feel free to drop your comments there if they are related to the subject matter. We will take it as your contribution. Dr. Kynes, on the submission made by Mrs. Gibby, centralizing on education, funding, making the public schools attractive so as to make it a bit more affordable for parents.
Okay,
How willing
thank
is
you.
your government and the ministry driving that objective?
Okay, thank you very much. Government has responsibility to make provisions for society on all fronts. But I need to sound not just in response to her, but to society generally.
Yes.
The government of His Excellency Reverend Father Dr. Hyacinth Umemalia is shifting and consciously, deliberately and intentionally shifting away from the deceit that has always characterized governance, where people sit on radio and mention all manner of gigantic intentions that are aimed at deceiving society and receiving applauses for things that they do not plan to do. We are very practical, and we are alive and alert to issues of society. So I do not need to say some bogus statements that will please society and rise up from here and abandon them altogether. And that is why I can speak in the tone that you hear me speaking. It's a reflection of the reality that is on ground. So I want to tell everyone listening to us that we do not believe in deceit. We do not believe in causing people to applaud us just so that we'll be seen to be good in the eyes of one and all. The truth and the reality is that it's government responsibility to fix school fees to a large extent, especially for public schools. But for the private schools, whether you like it or not, whoever is operating a private school must meet the minimum basic standards of education. And government derives revenue from the people who are setting up fees. So whether it is pleasing to you or not, once you are running a school, you must, and it is a must, and will continue to charge this, from private school owners. First, you pay a registration fee, you continue to pay the service charge fees and inspection fees, quality control fees. So there are several of them, and all of these are aimed at government standing up to its responsibility to supervise and ensure that these standards are met. There is no
Maybe,
point.
Honorable Commissioner, I will
Yes.
beg to interrupt you as we go along. I'll require you to outline some of those approved list of charges for public and private schools that if parents are demanded to pay, they should, because as it does appear, people are also in ignorance of which is approved and which is not approved.
Okay.
So I will just beg you to briefly hold your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Let's engage with the listener and we'll come back later on to engage with that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Hello, good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Hello. Oh, unfortunately, we lost connection with that caller, but we'll try to take more calls.
Okay.
All right, 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Hello, good morning. Hello. Okay, you are not forthcoming. 0814-335-9292. That's the line to call on Perspectives. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good to have you join us on the program.
Yes, I am Tekura Shiba calling from Bayango.
All right, good to have you on Perspectives, Tekula Shiba.
Yes. My regards to the guest in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. Yeah, my contribution is the repayment of school fees by private schools. The Honorable Commissioner there is emphasizing that the government cannot decide on how much the private schools will be collecting from parents as school fees. But I suggest that there should be a guide, because there are some private schools that are charging school fees high, but the payment to teachers is low. I think they can guide the private schools, or there should be a rule that if you are collecting high charges from parents as school fees, the salary to teachers too should be a bit high, because it forms part of motivation. It is the way the teachers are being paid that they are motivated to teach the children very well. So even though the government is not deciding on how much private schools should collect as school fees, I think they should guide, they should check, the quality control should check how much are you collecting from parents and how much are you paying to your teachers. I think that will make parents too be happy, even though they are paying much from what they're getting, from what their children are getting.
814-335-9292. If you're not able to get through to that line, simply send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. Good morning. Hello. Okay, you're not coming through your own, but I barely can hear you. 0814-335-9292. That's the line to call in on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to
Good morning,
Perspective.
gentlemen in the studio.
Good morning
Yes,
to you.
good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I am Comrade Alfred Audu from Iho.
Good to have you on Perspectives, Alfred Audu.
Yes, I appreciate the discussion in the radio studio there.
Thank you.
I want to point out one thing, particularly as regards what the Honorable Commissioner has said. The fact that the hardship is befalling everybody, is also affecting the government and the private, the individuals. But I want to say that it is the duty of the government to regulate every business activity in the state. So now, rather than government to subsidize the educational sector so that the parents' plight suffering will be alleviated, I hear he smartly said they are attempting to increase school fees, to hold a meeting and increase school fees in the public sector. Which I say is so pathetic. I am of opinion that they should rather subsidize the levy, the taxes they are charging on the private sector, the private schools. Because I know from history, just as he has succinctly said, the private schools have been helping us a lot. I will name schools like Direjado, the Tofi, and the rest. They operate this school relatively of profit or non-profit. Profit or non-profit. That is what I want to say. Now, yes, today they are making little profit from it. Some are operating at least where they are charging higher. We know, but the majority of them, about 70% of those private schools, are helping us a lot. Just like that, Mr. Ojo has said, I have been a stakeholder of this private sector. I'm a PTA chairman of about 2 schools, and I know how they are passing through. One of them sold the yam he put as a GIA and paid his teacher's salary. So, for me to have said the state government should have subsidized the education sector so that the removal of subsidy that is suffering the parents would have given them a sleeping at night. But I wouldn't want to say that. But the state government should halt the idea of increasing school fees and should also relativize the taxes on the private sector so that indirectly we, the parents, will have a relief.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Alfred.
Thank you.
Alfred, thank you for your submission. 0814-335-9292. The Alfred is very passionate that you should have an approach that will alleviate the condition of parents.
Morning.
Good morning. Good to have you join us on Perspectives.
Thank you. This is Magdalene Yohimba from behind prison, Yekyo.
Good to have you, Magdalene Yohimba.
Yes, I have I want to appreciate the guest in the house, the Honorable the Commissioner for Education.
Thank you very much.
And the other guests in the house. I want to appreciate you for doing so well on the topic. I also have 2 or 3 things to say. First is that I will plead that the government should make it compulsory for teachers to enroll their pupils in the school they teach, so that they will take their work seriously. Because you will find out that these teachers rather, they teach in these public schools and take their pupils and works to private schools where they are paying heavily, and then they take these schools that they are being employed and paid not seriously. I don't know if you get the point.
Yes, we do.
The parents need to take the school, their teaching job seriously. Like in the private sectors, you go to work every day, and most times you stay for lessons. You don't have to miss it. But when it comes to the public schools, you don't see that happening. And it's as if the public schools are just a dump, where you just go there, dump your keys, and nobody care about them and all that. And then secondly, the private schools, they collect heavily from parents, and then they pay to their workers, their staff. Is nothing to write home about. We are talking about minimum wage of 70,000 naira. If you check the schools, most of them, not up to 40% of them, will pay teachers up to 40 or 30,000 naira. It's pathetic. These people are also parents. They have families to take care of them. So I really plead that the government should look into this and do something about it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Magdalene.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The commissioner, thank God we have him. He is listening, and we hope he's going to implement or take action on some of the submissions coming from parents. Good morning.
Good morning, Nathaniel.
Good to have you join us on Perspectives.
This is Benedict Jan from Afar, in the local government of Tunisia.
Okay, James, go ahead and make your submission.
I regards to the people who do in the street.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is a very important discussion this morning because the current economic situation in the state and the country at large is such that people are now contemplating whether to send their children to school or to feed. Because even people of middle
Hello, James.
class.
James, the network at your end seems to be breaking. See if you can change position so we can get you clearer.
Okay, can you just say now?
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to say the situation in the country and in the state is so pathetic that people are now contemplating whether to send their children to school or to feed, because even average class people are finding it difficult to have 2 square meals a day, and it's so serious. And the government has to do something, at least to make sure the public schools are in good order and the staff there are being paid well, so that at least if the public schools are charging high fees, we can take our children to the public schools. Because in Nepal here, for instance, the pilot public primary school, when we had a staff meeting that was posted there, even the pupils that are sending schools in Makodi were there. They saw the environment, they saw the chairs, the decks, and everything, and they were admired and say their parents should enroll them in the school. So if all other public schools are being developed, infrastructural, and the staff are being paid well, you will not be scarce for parents to take their children there. Otherwise, it's difficult for the government to, say the public sector should charge social fees, because somebody is running a business. No matter how you call it, whether social service or that or this, it's still business oriented, because you are doing a business and you have to make gains. It is from the parents' fee that you have to pay your teachers. So as far as the situation in the country is now, you cannot do otherwise but charge exorbitant fees for you to meet up with the staff salaries and all that.
Thank you.
So government has to do something.
Thank you. Thank you, James. I'm so sorry. So with listening, we have the opportunity to participate. 080-0814-335-9292. That's the line to call in on Perspectives. Hello, good morning. Hello. Okay, we lost connection with that caller. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome.
Not I'm the guest in the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to specially greet my honorable commissioner. Question Picola.
Thank you very much.
Greet my honorable commissioner and the chairman proprietors and the one representing.
We'll appreciate if your radio set is far away
That is
from
exactly
you.
what I'm telling my wife to do, please. We have been listening to this and we're so happy.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's a family listenership this morning. Good.
Yes, honestly. It's a very nice program.
Thank you.
I appreciate I get ready for this.
Yes, we'd like to know your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Comrade Tefako.
Okay.
Honorable Commissioner is my father in the spirit.
Okay.
My name in the spirit.
Okay,
Thank you.
Tefa,
Thank
where are you reaching out from?
From Makodi, you Akpehi.
Okay, good. Tefa,
I
go
was just
ahead.
about to go to work when the program started. I've been listening to it.
Okay.
I have a little contribution to make. Let me say so, yes, because the commissioner has been speaking very well. Before, not now, not this administration, I would have said all that he's saying, well, you will not listen to it. But honestly, if you go to our public schools today, I admire them. I was in Walumayo, UB. Honestly, I was impressed. So they are doing it. Just like he said, he doesn't want to just pick. They are doing something. I saw it yesterday. And there is need for us to go back to our public schools. If they can continue that pace, I don't need to complain that private schools are charging me high, because today they are really charging us high. That one too, I'll have to confess that they are charging us high. And in the schools that I saw yesterday, as an example, Walumayo, up here, I was astonished. It was good. Neat. The teachers were there. Very, very fine. The sitting arrangement, very good. Students were there. Everybody was, serious with the studies. So if the public schools are upgraded like that, we don't need to cry that private schools are charging us high. Otherwise, it's reality. The charges are high. More than 70%. Everyone thinks that what else are saying is just the truth. But I am confessing that yes, government is really trying. So if what the head commissioner is saying is anything to go by now, I think I believe it. I will pray that the government should continue. But look at the taxes too, like other people are saying. If you have told us the tax, I would have even contributed more. But I didn't hear the tax. Maybe I'll continue listening to the program and get them maybe next time. Just always the next time, because Honorable Commissioner is always ready to come out to speak to us. So I like it. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank
And
you.
everybody in the house.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in. 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. So many persons are trying that line. If you are not able to connect to it, kindly send an SMS 0912-699-9 9404. This way too, you can reach us and we'll take your comments. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
My name is No Ephraim, calling from Akpili.
Good to have you join us, No Ephraim.
Thank you very much. My appreciation to Reverend FFK and PhD,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Ojo and Mrs. Gire.
Thank you.
David.
Mrs. Geve.
Yeah. I have listened to the Honorable Commissioner in recent times, and honestly, I'm impressed. Before now, nobody will trust any government for their words. But I can hear public confessions from every now and then, the improvement in the education sector. Having said this, the increase in the school fees regime has come to stay. I assure you.
Why should it be so?
Nothing is.
Yeah, No Ephraim.
Nothing is.
Yes, No. Hello, No Ephraim.
Yes, yes, I'm listening. I'm
Yes.
listening.
So why should it be so? Why should it come to stay at a time people are grappling with hardship?
Exactly, that is where I'm heading to. There is nothing is free, even in Freetown. Now, if you look at it, the school fees regime has come to stay because there is increase in the cost of living, and it has been increasing on daily basis. There is no commensurate increase in income in that regard, and people will have to endure the situation as it comes. My plea to the government is this.
No Ephraim,
Yes?
are you married? Do you have children? You are sponsoring their education?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I have 3 kids,
Okay.
and I'm not exempted from this hardship.
Okay.
Now, as we are saying this, my plea to the government is this. I have never gone to a private school in my life. But from the onset, the level at which public schools were kept, we were able to compete favorably with our counterparts that were coming from the private sector. Now, if the government, as this present administration is heading towards, if they can reposition our public schools, inculcate that discipline in our teachers, because there is no commitment on the side of our public school teachers. Somebody made mention of this from the beginning of the discussion, that they go to the public schools as teachers, parade themselves as teachers, sitting there busy doing nothing, send their words to private schools, which they pay heavily for it. If the government can compel them to inculcate discipline into our children, there are no better trained teachers in private schools than in public schools.
Okay. No.
But because there is discipline within the teachers in the private, yes.
Yes, you should conclude now. You have taken time already.
Yes.
Yes.
My plea to the government is inculcate discipline in our teachers in the public schools,
All right.
and then the plight of the masses will be solved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Inculcate discipline in teachers in public schools so as to make them. Welcome to Perspectives.
Thank you. My name is Joguno. I'm calling from Tukube in Yeken Magadi here.
All right, good to have you join us here.
I thank you so much in the studio.
Thank you.
I only want to beg that the Honorable Commissioner and other guests are in to the public primary schools. Some strikes completely destroy the duty of the public primary public schools. So we are begging them that the people who can those in the private schools.
Hello, Joe Gundu, are you there? Hello, Joe Gundu. Okay, Joe, you are still on, but your voice is not coming through. I'm afraid we may have to disconnect with you. Thank you all the same for calling in. Your submission is already made, though very briefly. Good morning. Hello. Odd messages. Let's try to see if we can engage with callers. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry. It does appear it's a network glitch, but the line is still open. You can send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404 if you are not able to get through voice call. Hello, good morning. All right. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. All right, let's take some messages briefly. Good day, the presenter and the guests in the studio. I am of the opinion that each and every public organization in Benue should collect vital data of their institution for future use, especially for our educational institutions in the area of school, which collected once, even non-graduate, but mentioned. In fact, private schools are rather exploiting parents than complementing government programs on education. Nyajo Godwin from Bajimba in Guma local government. All right, Nyajo, thank you for your message. Another one here says, good morning to you and guests in the studio. This is in our WhatsApp box anyway. Good morning to you and guests in the studio. Please, if the private educational sector will also stop compelling parents to buy new textbooks at each session, it will be of help. Parents are being compelled to buy books for their words even when they have used previous ones. Thank you, Sembi Yoyena from Makodi. Sembi, thank you for drawing our attention to that. Good morning, Nathaniel, and greetings to the Honorable. An enabling environment of costs, the government should make education free, compulsory, and qualitative for the Benue child at a basic level. Yes. This we intend make the private school optional. As it stands now, the reverse is the case because the public schools are mostly in the state of disrepair and no teachers. This is my take. Thank you, Daniel Kembe from Behind Civil Service Commission here in Makodi. Daniel, thank you very much for sending in your message. And also some comments from our live feed on YouTube. There's some form of policy going to do to assist with regards to fees, school supplies, etc. All right, we'll respond to some of these posers briefly after a few engagement here. Good morning. Hello. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Could you speak up? Let's hear you.
Good morning.
Morning, you are on. Speak to us. Hello. Hello. Okay, it does appear like a child playing with the parents' phone or so. Okay, children get radio is fancy, so sometimes they do this. Hello, good morning. All right. Because the network seems to be frustrating our efforts to engage with more persons.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, Nathaniel. Good morning.
Morning. Good to have you here on Perspectives.
Yes, good morning, guests in the studio.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Paul Abba from API.
All right. Good to have you here, Dr. Paul Abba.
Yes, sir. I've been very happy listening to this program.
Thank you.
I'm also a parent, so I want to join to the midst there. It's really very, very difficult for us parents to cope at this time because of the economic crisis. But anyhow, we must do our best to put our children in school because there's no alternative to that. The cost of ignorance is far higher than the education today, so we all know that. We have to do what we can to make sure that our children remain in school. But to say the truth, the school fees are actually very high. And the reason is because the private schools have been overpopulated because the government schools were not functional. So I want to appeal to the Honorable Commissioner there, who is also a reverend gentleman, to please do what they can to make government schools, public schools functional. Right now, as it is, even farmers' children are going to private schools and they cannot afford the fees. But when public schools are functional, then sending your child to a private school becomes a choice. But right now, it's not a choice at all because the government schools are not functional. So, I want to also private schools A lot of them, the structures are dilapidated. The desk, the seating and arrangement and everything are bad. And children are even overpopulated in the classroom. Yet they are charging so much for school fees. So if they must charge that high, at least they should provide standard infrastructure, qualified teachers that are trained and are up to date with whatever they are teaching. Then, I also want to appeal to the Honorable Commissioner as a reverend gentleman to appeal to the church, to the proprietors of church schools. You see, it was the missionaries that brought education to us. And the idea was for evangelism. Because if somebody is not educated, it will be difficult for him to understand the scriptures and to know the way of salvation. But what is happening this day is that the present founders of these churches, especially Pentecostal churches, the schools that they have opened, they are no longer for evangelism. It's pure business. Even we church members, we cannot afford the school fees of the school built by our church. And there's no consideration. Many of our children are in public schools and we are paying tithes, we are giving offering, we are doing everything to sustain the school built by our family.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Paula.
That ought not to be so.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So I want to appeal to you, talk to your reverend colleagues and let them do what they can.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we can
Thank
send
you.
our children to our church schools. Thank you.
Well noted.
All right. Thank you very much. Honorable Commissioner, let's begin. Let's start off with where we post momentarily to take course. The list of approved charges that are available for public and private schools in Benue. So we sensitize parents not to be exploited.
Nathaniel, thank you very much. I would rather want to plead that I cannot say that now, as I said earlier.
Yes.
That the State Assembly is still working on that document. And I just said earlier that by Monday or Tuesday, that document will be available. So if you permit me to come again here Thursday next week, I'll furnish our audience with every detail. I said also that we have chosen to consciously not engage in populist tendencies where we gain applause from people by saying things that are very beautiful to hear to suit the ears of our audiences. No, we'll talk about the realities. And I want to point out that you see that even food that is produced on the farms has skyrocketed. So I'm, as Commissioner of Education, I do not need to please people by saying that we'll reduce school fees because economic realities are too hard. This will be a lie.
Okay.
And I will not want to deceive you. Lastly,
all right,
what the government is doing is to engage the system. Remember, this is what we came to meet. There is so much rust in the system.
Yes, let's tie it to some issues so that our time is ticking away already. Let's tie it to some issues. From our YouTube live, he said other states have advanced some form of palliatives to aid a resumption of pupils. That is at this particular time that schools have resumed. To aid their resumption, what is the government of Benue State doing to assist with regards to fees and school supplies at this particular moment?
Okay, thank you very much. I wish I knew those kind of palliatives, but here in Benue, we're already working on a model. The governor is passionately concerned about free education. I mentioned it in part before. And the free education model is that government will take over the school fees of learners in our schools, while parents will be left with books and uniforms to pay for their wards. So this is part of what government is already working on. This also, I say, with every sense of responsibility, that it's not sounding populist for people to begin to applaud government. In the next 1 year, we'll be able to achieve this program. Secondly, government is concerned about the dilapidated state of our schools, both public and private. We went out on inspection during this week, and we had no choice but to shut down some schools that are operating in buildings that will soon cave in, and unfortunate experiences of loss of lives will occur. So I'm saying again and announcing publicly that government is alive to its responsibility, and we have started this supervision that will lead to eradicating completely mushroom buildings or blocks or schools that are not even registered. In part of the model that we are bringing, there is the safe education model that accommodates infrastructural development, ICT upgrading, and other incentive for teachers like trainings and retrainings in order to bring our public schools to a standard that will solve the problem of patronizing private schools. While we are not against them, government has decided to take charge of its schools in a manner as to restore the glory of public schools, some of us are products of public schools. Like the other caller said, I never went to a private school, but this is where I am today. In fact, 80 to 90% or more of people who are administering the education sector today never went to private schools, but this is where we are. So this safe education model that will accommodate out of school children will give emphasis to girl child education and will bring us to a point of technical education that prioritizes entrepreneurial skills acquisition and development is what we are packaging to put on the table. And at the end of this all, I can assure you that private schools will end up being abandoned. Part of the incentive that our government brought to the table, which I'm sure all of you know, was that we registered WAEC for schools, for students in public schools. As a beginning point, the governor has given a word that if resources improve in the upcoming year, it will be extended to grant-aided schools as well as some others.
When you mentioned registering a WAEC, it was alleged that some of those who it was the government position that the examinations were registered for them, the examinations were withheld, and some parents had outcry on that. How true is that? Maybe since you have touched on that, help us clarify that.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. We investigated and discovered that there were some schools that had dealings with WAEC in previous years that were pending. WAEC decided to take advantage of it when government did the registration, and the results were withheld until the schools went to clear those pending commitments, those commitments that had been ongoing before we came in. And so we cleared.
And what became of the students the candidates whose examinations results were withheld?
It was withheld only for a few days. As soon as the commitments were settled, the results have been released.
Commitments settled from schools or on the part of government?
No, from the schools in their previous commitments. I said we investigated, and this is what we discovered. If there are any pending issues, they are yet to bring to my attention.
All right. Let me come to you now, Mr. Ojo. One of the text messages which we read here, and of course some callers also made allegations about what private schools are doing as exploitative activities, including charging for books that are already made available, uniforms, and so many things. Respond to some of the allegations you had, especially as it concerns with exploitative activities of your members on parents.
Thank you very much. I think on that issue, you notice that at the end of every section, we are normally handed down with lists of textbooks from Ministry of Ties them to ensure that every child has these textbooks. I don't understand what they mean by old textbooks and new textbooks. I do know that if you ask a child to bring a textbook on a particular subject, and the child brings that textbook, whether it be new or old, it should be accepted.
Sure.
It should be accepted. So I am yet to get more information on schools that will insist on a new payment for new textbook when a child has already had that same textbook previously. We are yet to get that report, but as information that has come into the public purview, we will x-ray it and we'll follow up on that matter. But the issue of saying exploiting, the word exploiting, you know, is very negative towards social development. Because when you want to make a child learn qualitatively, what you need to do is to give that child all the tools, all the materials to work with. Like the registration. And this examination has their own standard. And those of us who are registered members of NAS will write this examination in order to build up our school standard. So it requires some materials which we're asking parents to provide. So do you look at that as being exploitative when it is geared towards building the child for quality education? And then, like I said earlier when I started this discussion, I said education we have mass education, that is for everybody. Then we have quality education. Those who send their children to private schools are aiming at quality education. And so many of them are willing to pay. But where we see excesses on our members, we will not hesitate to stop them. And of course, ask them to abandon such practice. Thank you.
Okay. When the excesses are there, and that is exactly the essence of why we are here, because we want those excesses to be checkmated for the parents to breathe. Let's allow the parents to breathe. Hello, good morning. Can they move away from your radio?
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to Perspectives.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel.
Thank you, sir.
Let me explain exploitative to the person who has just spoken.
Okay, we would like to know.
By the way, my name is Jonathan Ichabe. I'm calling from North Bank.
All right, good to have you join us, Jonathan Ichabe.
My greetings to the Honorable Commissioner and the other people.
Thank you very much, sir.
The school will go and buy the book at 3,000 and come and sell it to us at 5,000. That is exploitation. And they will not allow you to go and buy in the bookshop yourself. They say you must buy from them. I have experienced that on several occasions. So my proprietor, private school representative, the representing the private school there said that the school in Benue State has become an industry, meaning it is a profit-making venture. It is the right of every student. Government must take the blame. They are not regulating these private schools enough. They pay very poor salaries to their staff, yet they charge very high fees. Honorable Commissioner, it is hard work, but it is work that must be done.
Yes.
What is the actual cost of running a private school? It has to be done so that we say this is the maximum school fees you will charge.
Okay.
I went to a private school, a DRCM. It was that time. They were not making profit out of us. So somebody said even mission schools are not making profit out of the venture. You are the Honorable Commissioner.
Yes.
I'm sure when you pastored a church, you also had a school.
Yes, I did.
Please convince the church, even the NKST, which was DRCM, which I attended, has become is tending toward exploitation. I went to Bristol for some time before I left and went to another school. Where the Bible tells us that we're in the last days, even the word of God will become profit-making. Yes. So I'm not too surprised.
All right, sir. Thank you.
It doesn't mean we will stop.
All right.
Okay.
Please, Nathaniel.
Yes, sir.
The government must know this, that education is a right of every student, every child born in this country. Not be allowed for private people.
All right.
Mission schools, yes, but not these private people who are out to make the maximum profit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
How
very
much do they build the buildings?
Thank you.
Which
The Honorable Commissioner just said that many of them are dilapidated and ready to cave in on students or pupils.
Thank you, Jonathan Kelvin.
Now,
Thank you, sir.
This is a serious matter. The government must do something.
Yes.
I went to a government school after my primary school.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I was
I'm so sorry, sir. We may have to disconnect with you at this time. Thank you very much for your submission. Yes. Your concerns are noted, and we hope the government should look into them as you have stated. Hello.
Good morning, ladies, gentlemen and ladies in the studio.
Good morning to you. You are close to your radio. Please move away from it.
Good morning.
Yes, I am Inspector Emmanuel from behind Modern Market.
Okay, Emmanuel who?
Emmanuel Abba from behind Modern Market.
Good to have you, Emmanuel Abba.
Thank you very much. I want to first of all thank the Honorable Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
He was trying to be stingy with the West. By stinginess, I mean he was trying to be factual, and I appreciate him for that. The reality on ground, whether we like it or not, has gone beyond what he used to be. That some people will say there was free education. Yes, but as a developing nation, there are computing issues. Sometimes they are even conflicting. And our representative, in the name of our mother in the studio there, said that government should centralize its activity or to prioritize its activity or program on education and food. Would that be enough? Would that sustain our society alone? To the best of my knowledge, it's a no to me. So it is based on that I am thanking the Honorable Commissioner to haven't been sincere enough not to have followed or played by the gallery of always telling us politicians coming to the studio or telling us what we want to hear. Rather, he told the way of telling the truth.
All right, Emmanuel.
And we should appreciate him for that. So,
thank you.
It is based on that I want to say that he should please the public schools. There will be no need to go to private school. The public schools should be taken care of. The teachers are there. The requisite numbers should be there. The dilapidated structure should be put in place. The priority should be on public schools, preventing and bringing back the public schools, so that there will be no need to compete with the private ones.
Thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you. And that will be the last call we'll be able to accommodate on the program as our time is fast ticking. Mrs. Gavey, pointedly, what can a government at this time that parents are grappling with hardship do to alleviate your pains in fending for the education of your children?
Thank you very much for that question.
And by your children here, I mean every other parent there, not just your children in particular.
Exactly.
Yes.
The education sector is sitting on a time bomb. It's something that the government needs to focus its attention on. Because if a parent cannot afford to take his or her child to school, already the child is a problem to the society. And the society would not want to have a generation where do not have access to education. I am appealing to the government to try as much as they could or can to subsidize education for parents. We are willing to take back our children to the public schools only if we are assured of their tomorrow. When we are talking about private sector, I think it's always an opinion. You decide to take your child to a private school, so I don't even want to talk about that much. I'm only pleading to the government to see areas where they will help us uplift the standard of our public schools, so that it's a resting time for parents. Once the children are in school, parents are comfortable, but putting your children where you will not be comfortable, I think you as a parent will not be happy. So this is just time to appeal. We don't have to battle words with the government, because it's the one that has the key to this problem we have right now.
And including the private schools, not just the government, because private schools, they are also
the government. I said the government because it is the government who will regulate the price control. They have to go to the school, monitor everything that is going on in the private sector, because somebody will not wake up one day and increase school fees because it's my school. No, you're under a government, so government should go and monitor these schools. That is why the other caller said we should be able to know the taxes. When we know how much government is giving out as taxes, we'll be able to question why the increments of the school fees is coming from.
All right. Mr. Ojo, our time is no longer there. So in 1 minute, are you willing to give a human face approach to make your charges a bit more affordable for parents at this time, especially with the hardship now that schools have resumed? But some parents are risking the opportunity of not having their children go to school for the first time due to hardship. To what extent?
Thank you very much. I want to correct one impression.
Yes, briefly.
By one of the callers. He did mention that proprietors will go and buy textbooks at 3,000 and sell at 7,000. I want to tell you that books have qualities. They are pirated books that are sold at any amount, and they are quality textbooks. And you don't expect a proprietor to go and buy pirated textbooks for his pupils. So some clarification needs to be made in that regard. But that said, my joy in this discussion is that the Honorable Commissioner has really come out to tell Benue people the mission of this administration towards quality education. And I want to use this opportunity to tell you that we are ready and willing to collaborate with government, especially in the area of quality assurance, in the area of quality education. We are ready. But we want to make appeal to government. Number one, government cannot provide education for every Benue child. Let me give you one short instance. There are local governments that has only 3 granted schools and almost about 40 to 50 private schools. So how can government go and take care of the students and pupils in all of these schools? It's not possible. Look at the whole of as large as Okpoku local government. Okpoku has only 2 government secondary schools. The rest population are handled by private sector. So government should come very, very close to private sector. One, area of capacity building. I've sang it to the commissioner, and I know that he is going to do something about it. He will arrange to train capacity building for private sector. Then his men should come and see what we are doing so that we'll be in line with standard. So we are willing to bring down any unnecessary charge from any of our members. But let me tell you, a good number of these private schools are not registered with the private proprietor with our association. A lot of them that charge this high cost, they don't even care about belonging to any association.
Okay, it is in your right as an association to enforce their membership.
Only my area of jurisdiction is within members of my association. But I tell you, they are very big schools. The schools that they are even pointing, accusing fingers now, are schools that has never registered with NAFS. So, Honorable Commissioner, please make every school owner to register with an association so that your communication becomes very easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Thank
enough.
you very much.
And this is where, Honorable Commissioner, I will request you to give your concluding words on what government will do at this time to alleviate the biting hardship parents have had to grapple with to fend for the education of their children. The immediate measures to cushion the hardship.
Okay, in 2 minutes, I have 2 points. First, ensuring the standards of education requires a collaborative effort on the part of government and the private school owners. Just one example. You observe that in our days, it is schools that pass exams and not students. You hear parents removing their students from one school and taking them to some other private schools, especially that these ones pass exams. Our investigation of the issue on hand is that some private schools want to maintain a good name. They pass behind the scene and pass exams. So they become a point of attraction. We have discovered this, and it is part of what we are going to work on, which actually we have started already. The governor decided to establish a quality assurance agency that is charged with the responsibility of making inquiries, investigating, and supervising some of these schools in order to establish what is actually going on there so that we can implement. That agency is very strong. Secondly, what we have decided to do is to carry out a school census so that we know the schools that are approved and are valid and government can manage. And by this, we are very confident that quality will be reintroduced. We have sung it over and over. Many of us went to public schools. It will be very sad that it will be under our own management that these same public schools that produced us will begin to go down. We cannot stand this at all. So we are doing our best and will continue to do it. If you permit me to come back again, like I said earlier, I'll furnish you with more details of what we have in the pipeline, and I'm sure that you people will also be willing to contribute. Here today, we want to give Benue people an assurance that under our watch, the glory of public schools will return again as it used to be.
All right, we're available at your service. But just before I let you go, Honorable Commissioner, pointedly in one word, there has been this hue about demolition of schools. Is the government contemplating demolishing schools to cut more hardship for people at this time? Just a word.
Okay, no, government cannot do that. However, we will advise school owners whose buildings have deteriorated to fix them, just like government itself is also fixing her deteriorated schools. A school here in Makurdi that was built in 1978 handed over to government in 1979. When I visited, I saw this example. We cannot destroy the buildings of school owners, but advise them to fix them.
Today's edition of Perspectives will discuss the cost of education in public and private schools. The Commissioner for Education and Knowledge Management, Reverend Dr. Frederick Kian, joined us and shared insights with us. We thank you very much, Commissioner, for coming on Perspectives.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
State Chairman, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, Benue State Chapter, Honorable Sunday Ojo, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
A parent and a commentator who is a politician as well, Honorable Mrs. Mlumo Geve. We thank you for your time with us and the insights you have shared on the part of parents.
Thank you very much.
Dear listener, that's our program today. Join us next week for another fresh edition of Perspectives. My name is Nathaniel Nongo. Have yourself a great weekend. Thank God it's Friday. I'll be back here on Monday. Goodbye.